Jie Judong Zo Jin Chong No La Shang Jie Bardo Dano Chasam Je Dake Shen So Ji Be Sonam Dola Bencher San Jien Zhe Ba Sho San Jie Judong Zo Jin Chong No La Shang Jie Bardo Dano Chasam Je Dake Shen So Ji Be Sonam Je Dola Bencher San Jien Zhe Ba Sho San Jie Judong Zo Jin Chong No La Shang Jie Bardo Dano Chasam Good evening, everyone, again.
Evening, Geshe.
Good evening.
Have you guys had dinner?
Geshe.
Good evening. Yes.
I just
Thank
ate it back.
Good evening.
Good.
Okay,
Everyone a very, very delicious dinner? Good. You know, mazaka la jinki sajara.
What's up?
Mazaka la jinka. That they come to it. Kaje mus had kaje kala janja sande to the jures. La de tam mission baga karo so jures.
Misagu, huh?
La jinka. La mig shin jures.
I don't know.
And la ya todo shade mig ya so jures. Mi todo shade san to charge. Like that.
So this is a saying in Geshe-la's dialect, you know. So there's like a so people stand up by eating, and God stand up by offerings. So you know people eat all the time. So people are like sit up straight, you know, able to because they eat, you know. And then the gods, you know, like usually is talking about the deities, the statues, you know, of the gods, and the statue are standing up, you know, because of the offering. So people offer to the gods.
Offering more. Mug soja, mug soja jore, mug chasha jores. La call chow mug shamada, mug chan ko todo sojores.
Alele misa jores. Ale. So yeah, so people, you know, stand up by eating, and you know the what it says the gods or the deities actually is talking about the statue that's erected by people.
Like that, therefore, it's important to eat everyone. Got some food. Yeah. That is my mom. That kesan tell ma ani chi seshe de yang des kata de ser ta de kodya de che tapchiginda.
So now again we're going to go through that same explanation. Maybe trying to make it a little bit clearer this time.
Shida shiram ni bolon reba pe momorchi hanga den reba den momon ta de jande phende momorchan deshe kanga japtan chin dagmendo.
So generally, there are so many different kinds of explanation or commentary, you know, of the Heart Sutra. There's a commentary in Tibetan Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism, and many other, you know, the Buddhist tradition. Also, there's many different kind of explanations.
Yada ta dodo kanchi shabi nibo sade ta ngunere cha kanchi jende desum chasangya tsuda tenyuga ti dodo ta nyunyu chine disha je pesha denda shabi nibo se.
So it's called the Heart Sutra. You know, the Heart Sutra is the heart, you know, of all these Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. There's like the extensive, middling, and the short Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. And so it is the essence of all this, you know, Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Therefore, it's called the Heart Sutra.
제가 안에 대야 뉴뉴 트야 가래 대 제워인 바지 트 뉴뉴 거네 되반다 다 님보스 대 강가고나 지바르샤스.
And so it is the essence, you know, of all those extensive word and extensive meaning. It's the essence of all that. That's why it's called the Heart Sutra.
어쨌든 단 되게다 그 두바트잖아 좀 된데 야부가 샤게 본물라 게는거 근데 첨보다 시작되면 근데 첨보다 탑치게 슈 대세 대다 델리제 되래 가다들 만드시 뭐 잡사인 바스.
And so last time we talked about this the introduction part of the Heart Sutra. There's thus have I heard at one time Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgiri on a vulture mountain together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. And so last time I don't know, maybe I mentioned about this in one method, so it was translated in literally it says in one method, and then but in the explanation it says which means together, among or together. So we do have that in this text. It says that on the mountain together with a great assembly of monks and great assembly of bodhisattvas. So it is there.
다는 좀 된데다 샤게 부모도 kellama고지. 다 gelong 겐데 첨보, 샹주 셈비 겐데 첨보 세지 가상도 쉬임바 대야 데스 고대원을 쉬어이나.
And then to make it even a little bit more clearer on that part where it talks about the great assembly of monks and great assembly of bodhisattvas.
And gelong 겐데 첨보 세대 땅안도 미게 아니 남바친지 원에 저 랍종 겐데 된데 뭐 보셔요레스. 산지 좀 되는 냠들어와. 아니 샹주 셈베 아니 겐데 세대 아니 야치 다 니랑 다좀 받는데 뭐 보셔요레스. 아디 겐데 첨보 세대 아니 샹주 셈보 뭐 보셔 냠도요레스. 어떻게 고자다식도 없어.
그 전주섬 근데 세디 법 냐도 담대죠.
어떻게 샹주 셈베가네 다 니도 다좀 받다 아니 샹주 셈바 간가를 고쳐고도 없어.
So the great assembly of monk, is the conventional monks, the monk in the who are ordained, wearing robes, that kind of monks, right? So there's a great assembly of monks, and the great assembly of bodhisattva can be also heard, or also it could also mean like the arhats, the heroes and soul realizers and the bodhisattvas.
오지 아니 대대와 잡다 찍으래. 다 셴바질라 gelong 겐데 쳔보다 저도 답지도 쉬어대. 아니 대 gelong 세대 양 아니 개와 세대 탈와샤 대 돈의 예당에게 아니 다 니라 다좀 받다 샹초 셈바다 아니 미 나바지 되는 여가지. 다 아니 미 마임베게 배나 땅감수 한번 만토하게 아니 샹소니에 세제라서 와간지 산지다 샹초 셈바 남칼에 되는 마보슈 그래서 어떻게 권한시 용도
이리 전주섬은 괜히 추모서더라. And that's one explanation. The other explanation, is the great assembly of monk. The monk here means like so those who aspire for liberation. So anybody who is aspire to achieve liberation is called monk. Sangha, in other words. So who are who have this a strong aspiration, wanting to achieve liberation. So that kind of being who have this strong aspiration to achieve liberation is called Sangha. So great assembly of Sanghas, or monks, and great assembly of bodhisattvas, also they're great, all these bodhisattvas, like the 8, the close disciples of the Buddha, the 8 bodhisattvas who are close disciples of Buddhas, and so forth. So those are all the great assembly of bodhisattvas.
다들 도저히래 그래. 대라도리 다 안에 변에 사람님보다 대화친 분들은 되게 대체대 제가 년도 요래 왜 저한테 그래서 계산도 줄래 봐.
And there is a doubt about this statement, about the great assembly of monks, which includes the hearers and soldier leaders. So it says that the second turn of the wheel of Dharma, which is on the emptiness, which happens to be the teaching, for intended, teaching intended for the beings of the great vehicle. And if that is so, then is there hearers and soldier leaders among the disciples of the great vehicle teaching?
예전 네게 변화 전대 시라마바다 노대바데 년도대와 대요 말해서 얘나 년대가 다좀 받아 아니 라자 다좀 봐요 말이야. 나 라자람 슈팅들이 요레스. 에딜 요랍고 요랍 초요레스.
가르디오 말서?
변화 인가도 전다 시라마바다 노대바다 야 니도 어때요 말해서. 신도니도 요 말해서. 아니 아니 니도 다좀 받아 라자 다좀 봐 메라 그래. 시 라자도 요랍 초그레스.
So it says that there are hearers and soldier leaders who propounds the tenets of the Vaibhashika and Sautrantika. So those hearers and soldier realizers, you can say they are not present at that teaching. But you can say there are the arhats, the hearers arhats, and then soldier realizers, or so those who have entered into the soldier realizers path.
그러나 아니 샤리보다 건강 조건가 다좀바 장자레스. 다 건강 다좀을 맞은. 소 아니 다 아니 가진 건강 변 샤리보다 니들 다좀을 맞은. 상지어 말 상지 다좀 말레스. 대화침 다좀마다 아니 니들 다좀 찾으러.
So Shariputra and Mangalyanas, who are among the audience, are all the healers, for destroyers, arhats, healers, arhats.
다 지금 요레스. 다 늦게다가 투바 통해돼서 가상가도 까듯이 보인 봐. 가상에 지나서 라인 봐. 공가월에서 라인 봐. 통해돼, 생해돼. 야 빼자 가시에 나라야 아니 샹주선반 잠벌세들이 된데 소샤. 야 빼자 가시에 나라야 아니 차나도 저래 된데 야 세소모분 도세 가지 통해돼.
And then when it says, "Thus have I heard," at one time, I, so the I is referring to Ananda. So that's what we talked about last time, right? Because during the time, when they were compiling, the teachings of the Buddha, they all gathered together, to compile the teachings of the Buddha. During that time, they asked Ananda, to narrate, whatever the Buddha taught. At that time, that's when he said, so that's what I heard. But there's another commentary which says there is the I who said this. The I is referring to a Bodhisattva, Jambel. And then another explanation also says it is the Bodhisattva Vajrapani.
일단 남주는 태화 전부까지 정해대 아니 단다 차나도 지선 남주 라그래서 용라로 보시나.
Because usually at that time, when the disciples of the Buddhas, they gather together to compile the teachings of the Buddha. At that time, they said that it's the Theravada teaching, and so therefore that's like they don't even consider the Mahayana teachings of the Buddha's teachings. But there is a compilation of the Buddha's Mahayana teaching also, and it says that it was compiled by Vajrapani, and so therefore in the Mahayana teaching, it would be like I, who thus I have heard it. The I who have heard, is the Vajrapani.
아니 다하는 게 다 태매게 되는 조 등에대 아니 공가보다 아니 인토에서 전부 아니 공도인 말에.
So those who compiled the Theravada teachings of the Buddha, and the Ananda, and the Mahakashyapa, and other disciples.
어때 두치라 그래. 이번에 다 배회는 저번 몸보들라야 아니 혈압niveau 등에도 건강을 했을 아니 뭐요.
But in many commentaries, of the Tibetan text about the Heart Sutra, and it says that thus have I heard the I is Ananda.
어제 다 대찬도 세워잖아요. 주마야 찬도 혈압niveau 저 몸볼로시 셴바들은 알레 기실라 텔레마서 대 말에선 말이다. 고시했던다면 뭐요. 그래서
So you might come across, with the different explanations of the Heart Sutra, right? And then you might hear different things. They say, "Oh, what Geshe said was wrong. In this one, it says like this." But so just to make clear to you that there are many different kind of explanations.
어제 다 된대요. 다 되니까 나는 산지 좀 된데 가지고 대체 좀 된데 산모지 등에다 아니 좀 된데도 셔당 전에 그 산지래서 산지라 아니 다 간지 냠자도 지상 가고 말이야. 가지는 냠바 샤도요. 그래서 다 뒤가서 아니 띵에다 냠바 샤베 투르지네 이슈돼요. 그래서
And then it says, at that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspect of phenomena called profound illumination. And so it says that at that time, Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration. So it sounds like only at that time, he was absorbed in the concentration, right? But other times, is he not? But according to Buddhism, the Buddha is always absorbed in concentration. There isn't a time when Buddha is not absorbed in concentration. And so what does that mean? So does it mean that he only absorbed in concentration at that time? No, he is always absorbed in the concentration. But at that time, he showed the appearance of absorbing into concentration at that time.
양 가지게도 안 선중의 칼라사가 말에 투자가 말 대가 냠바 샤거든 어다 대오 아니 나도 요르 랍초고 그랬어 간제 냠바 샤와 나지 간제 띵에도 곰토고 되다 냠바 샤와를 랍고 그랬어.
Yeah, so whenever Buddha can concentrate, just like he's absorbed, just like we are absorbed in concentration, at that time we are fully concentrated. Like that, Buddha can concentrate all the time. So there is again question saying that then do Buddha take shower or do Buddha eat food? Because he's absorbed in concentration all the time. And then they can say, okay, he also shows the aspect of eating, and he doesn't have to eat, but he shows the aspect of eating.
근데 갑라인 바나 어쩌다 아니 근데 갑라 간지 띵에들 샘 간지 띵에들 냠바 샤토요 그러고서 샤라 주고 가인 바나.
And on the other hand, you can say that while he's eating, he can still be absorbed in concentration while he's eating with absorption in concentration.
다 니가라 아니 사모 띵에 사모 나와 띵에다 사모 세베다 또만 있지 나와서 대 또베게 아니 띵에다 tel라 냠바 샤마다 사모는 띵에다 되고 And there's
countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. So the profound illumination, and illumination is like to get the light of something, right? So when there's a light, you can see it. So in other words, it means to know or to realize, right? And then profound, is referring to emptiness. So this means like knowing or realizing emptiness.
다들 리제데 다 두치데 다들 콘데제 누치여다 다딩데 요데 리제데 데 리제 투모와세 데레스.
So that part, is what we call the introduction. Is introduction in a sense like it is explaining before the actual teaching. Before the actual teaching, you explain about it. So you say, oh, this is what happened, this is how it happened. So that kind of things, we can call that introduction, right?
다들 다 대쇼 집에서 가는 아니 야 대대 주저서 뭐 법화전에 오지 시라지 버터 신발 넘버 따지 부모하고 대다 라야 라지 놈 봤다 봤다고세 아니 다 대갑라 아니 다 대 솔라야 아니 다 시리즈가 가르치거든요. 시리즈야 아니 추탐처 아니 샤르지 가래 도마니 또비 샤르 디나네 장 부모하고 아니 라지 맞다 봤다 또 많이 되라 따따네 슈데르세 안도 야마나 따치 제데르세 안도 데도고 그래서.
And then it says at that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five ergas also. And so that's, just as it is said, so at that time, Avalokiteshvara also, is absorbed in that concentration.
어디 디나라베나 배자나랑 것도 베이다나 안에 먹어봤다 그랬어야 돼. 따고 했어야 돼. 그도 먹어봤지 하자. 대 따다 대 말라야. 간지 단다 따지 말해서 놓고 거기서 인지가나 간이 나하고 뭐서.
다시 말라.
다시 말라도 어디다 따래. 다시 말요레스. 다대 다시 말대.
나 다시 말.
어디다 다대 따다 대 인지가 따다 차들. 어디지? 아니 대 용지 다 대체스. 다 되네 가지는다. 대내 사지진 대단한 바 샤리베 다대 가르나 리지 토모 많이 봤어야 돼. 산데 디바라데 리지 토모 많이 봤다. 또 사람이 뭐 그런 거 토모 많이 배기 잘라는 거래서 돼.
So and then that part, it still hasn't started the actual teaching on emptiness, right? So it's still talking what's happening, right, before the actual teaching on emptiness. And so that's so the earlier part is the common introduction, and then this part is called the uncommon introduction.
다 되네 아니 다들 아니 좋아요 제도 대용 그래서 그래. 다들 집에 제달라고 그래서요.
And it's also called the cause, the cause of the question. What caused him to ask this question, right? Like that. So this is the Heart Sutra is all about question and answer. Somebody asked the question and then somebody gave answers. So and how he answered became the teaching, right? So like that. So this is the cause for the question also.
아니 다 대가리 안 되시면 맨날 샹조 선바 침보다 약하던 것도 줄라야 맞춰서 대양 똑바지 왔어. 내가 샹조 선바 침보다 시리즈 강가 가사 찍고 내 가사 이니파 선바 좀 말다 강가 시리즈 주보고 그래서.
And then last time we also talked, we had some argument or doubt about the Bodhisattva, the great being, right? So this is at the very time the Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being was looking perfectly. So then we talked about, we discussed about the Bodhisattva and a great being, who is Bodhisattva and who is a great being, right? And so, but in this case here, is all referring to Avalokiteshvara, the Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, is all referring to Avalokiteshvara.
다야 된 대화를 전에나 상주 선바세대 아니 상주 샘길라 진배 상주 소치 대지 아니 첨보서와 상전 파바지 아니 시리즈 간에 시리즈라 강가대 다 톱고요.
And then, if you want to further explain about it, then you can say that the Bodhisattva is just like the ordinary Bodhisattva on the part of accumulation and part of preparation. And then the great being is Mahasattva, is referring to the Arya Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva on the part of seeing, meditation, and normal learning. And so this all possessed by the, the quality of that, and all those are possessed by Avalokiteshvara.
아니 내 가다 좋은지 다 란돈도 타와토는 예와인자 아니 상주 선바 이제도 타와토는 예와도 저도 첨보세 아 가던 시점에 대오 단데 사람님 들어가는 독스.
And then wishing for enlightenment for one's own sake is Bodhisattva, and wishing for enlightenment for the sake of others is great being. So that is also, there is also this kind of explanation in the commentary of the Heart Sutra.
대타 땡가고 말에 변에 상주 선바 라도도 변나 타와토는 얘기 요 말은 대요래 변나 라므름 집어넣어야 아니 젠데 저거다 란데 야와 더 말이 가지 란데 제거돼서 또 요러 상주 선바.
And so, can you achieve enlightenment for the benefit? Yes, you can also, just like in the Great Lama, it says, when you think about others, you don't neglect yourself completely. You also, care about yourself.
어제 다 대행되셨어요. 다디가 부모하고 대다 라야 라지 또 말 라양 세대다 양다다 짱다다 되는 뭐 다 산이 군두기 디 말에 진라야 사람이 못 같이도 진년다데 아니 가시는 나 비어서 가시다 내 보한테 오도래나 내가 그 대다다 비는 대다 가고 요래서.
And then where it says here, Prophet looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. So what does also means, right? So why is it also? So there's an explanation about that here.
왜 다때 들어오면 다들 노래는 뇨라서 다들 다 안에 산지 좀 된데 냠바샤요 봐지. 대가블 안에 시리즈야 안에 다 동반이 콜라삼로 단도 지내대요. 그래서와.
And so Buddha is observed in that concentration called profound illumination, and Avalokiteshvara is also, thinking about emptiness.
다 대가를 안에 다 안에 샤리폴라야. 아니 다 진실랍네야. 근데 산지가 진실랍네. 다 시리즈라 들어왔지 그래서.
And so at that time, then Buddha, blesses Shariputra and makes him to ask question to Avalokiteshvara.
아니 대내 사제진 뒤에서나 사제 코랑 샤리를 코랑 그 니토고 말했어. 사제가 아니 진실랍인 뒤 대다담바 샤라 샤리퍼 상조삼바 삼바 보바시네데 벌 느끼지면서 아니 가로 아니 신이들은 두슬라 말했어 봐.
And so then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being. So he says through the power of the Buddha, not through his own intention, but through the power of the Buddha. So Buddha blessed him, to ask this question. So then it's not through his own will, or intention, but through the power of the Buddha.
세상에 가서 샤리퍼 로지데 쇼인 봐. 한테 대리 제지 쇼나. 한테 진짜 인사고 열었어.
So last time I mentioned why he's called Shariputra, right? Because
it's mom's name. 코랑가 안에 엄마 가로 마샤리카 보현자 안에 고 샤리푸트 다서 열었어.
And so he's a Shariputra, the Putra means son, right? And Shari, Sharika is the name of his mother. So because he's the Putra or son of Sharika, therefore he's called Shariputra.
점점 샤란 도티파라 그래. 샤란 도티파. 샤란 다티파. 따디보다도 그런 거 그렇게 미래스.
So Shariputra, says Shariputra and or Sharidatepu, or Sharidateputra. Date is like a family name.
아니 그런 게 빠와데 다 싫어 빠진 말에. 안 빼면 개빠지더라고.
So his father was a non-Buddhist.
아니 아마데 남바지. 아니 아마도 빠와니 남지 다 남바도 저렇게 따위 걸라 가디는 되자가 들어와. 두 번째가 말다. 세모 자네. 가디는 아마도 팜로 들어와.
아마 넘어라.
아마 남바래. 아마 팜로 들어와 가디나.
So the father was a hedonist and a non-Buddhist, and mother was Buddhist. So Shariputra's mother and father, they always argue, not like fighting, but argument about their teachings and views, and mother always loses.
아니 니마치 다 드네 코 아마라 부고 차베 갈라야 아니 코니 토지 아니 빠와 팜로도 아마도 켄로도.
So one day, so after she gave birth to Shariputra, then and she starts to win. She wins and he loses. When they argue.
뭐든 부고 맞게 말다 부고 차네. 저거는 차네.
Or when he's conceived.
안테니 아니 코나 빠와데 하고 온다. 다 가래리 다 파지 뭐 부고 차네 뭐지 차송어서 뭐 콜라 샘때 도바로서 리샤도.
So so suddenly she became very knowledgeable now, more knowledgeable than before, right? And then soon after he was conceived, she became more knowledgeable. She was able to defeat him. So then he had a doubt. What happened? Ever since she was conceived, she became more more knowledgeable.
안테니 코다 부고데 맞게네 다도 빠베 쇼르네 다 부고데 빼 쇼르베 다 리젤라 빼 메좀 개바차도.
So then when the son was born, and Shariputra, when he was born, then he followed his father and he became great scholar, of the non-Buddhist school also.
예바나 다드네 콩케 땅케 간제 쇼르 집에 다 따와도 아니 콜라 가제 저발에 내주도 대금도 아니 코초 다 샘도 주고 야본 거금도.
So he became a great scholar in that, and he knew about all these things, and then he always had a question, and whenever he asked question, nobody was able to give him the right answer all the time.
안테니 파도서 테니 슈마타코 쇼르페야 게게들데 슈마 두전에 간제 샤리바다 아니 뭔가버니 냠도 차도 그니 냠도 차기도.
And then he so as he was studying and practicing, then he also came across with Mongoliana.
아니 뭔가 버서데 빼 단다 샤리바다 리파야 보지 뭔가 버다 야 든든든 뭐 쉬고 들어가대.
And so the Mongol Buddha and Shariputra, they become the most, the closest disciple of the Buddha. So they said the Shariputra is very intelligent, very smart. It's a very sharp wisdom. And Mongoliana was very, very good at miraculous powers.
아니 되네 도지 다 티가 코니다나 상지 질 마지막에 갈라 코니 다 야갈라 도지 파도 투로 된데 게게 마모 된로 되게 갑라야. 아니 상지 좀 된데 다 샤리포 뇌 딜라 생내야. 아니 도타달라야 다 띵엔든지 코네스나 다페 코팅에도 야 보여래. 아니 전주 제나나 아니 공가 보여래. 혈압 전나 코처로도 다 가르치고나 코 가래 리그 남조 코는 누구 와대. 아니 상지 좀 되세도.
So then so Mongol Shariputra and Mongoliana, they become like buddies, and walking, and then practicing and going together to all these places, and then eventually they came came to Buddha. But how they came to Buddha is that Buddha saw it's time to like tame him now, to bring him into the Dharma. When how he can tame him, how he can like kind of impress him, to come into the Dharma, not by the wisdom, because he's very sharp, very smart, and then not by the miraculous power either, because Mongoliana was there with him all the time, so he couldn't impress much with the miraculous power either. And so then how he impressed him or brought him in, attracted him, is by physical appearances.
안에 되니 선지 좀 되는 그 대장 공가되는 봐봐 따투셔야 돼. 봐 믹다와이나 통화든지 미가 앞에 연통으로 다가리 괴식 다까지 남자 권동으로 감이 나다리 남제도 나 무슨 쇼시 도와줘 서로 아니 단단 봐봐 따투 아니 건가고 동사를 봤다 와 임을 선지 좀 돼.
kunga ogi charibu.
샤리프.
So then there was this another disciple of Buddha, who is very handsome and very attractive, very pleasant to look at. Whoever looks, at him, they all get very attracted. The way he wear his robes, the way he walk and the smile, everything is so very attractive. So then Buddha, sent this Arya Tatu, to in front of Shariputra.
아니 샤리 뭐 된 통화다 대화 밤에도 지냈다 저랑 개개 소리했어. 저랑 개개랑 같이 들어오시겠어. 아니 라바이 버래.
So when he saw this monk, Arya Tatu, and then he got so attracted by seeing him. And then the moment he saw him, he got like very strong faith in him and developed very strong faith in him. And then he says, who's your teacher? I want to meet your teacher who showed you, this kind of behavior.
아니 내 개개 산제래다. 아니 산제다 고치로 해 버래.
And then Arya Tatu, said to him that my teacher is the Buddha. And then that's how he took him to the Buddha.
다 강가 산제 제외 갑라야. 아니 다 산제 쇼트가라 쇼가라. 아니 다 단다 심바도 참이 차피가 산제라 차피가 아니 단다 샤리베가 고랑게 개개 단다 따둘라 샤피가 해 버래. 산제 눈. 아니 게도 심바도 쪽배에 산제라 샤면 보지 따둘라 샤페네. 저뱀 노르저도 고 강게 두바 자이 버래 걸.
And then because he developed this strong faith in the Arya Tatu, so he sort of became like the Arya Tatu's disciple. Arya Tatu brought him to see Buddha, and then Buddha was sitting on a throne, and then all the disciples came by him, and they all made a prostration and sat down. But Shariputra, instead of making prostration to Buddha, he made prostration to Arya Tatu, because Arya Tatu is the one who attracted him, who towards whom he had a very strong faith. And then other disciples, they all like kind of argued with him, saying, you're so bad, while Buddha is there, you're making prostration to Arya Tatu, to his disciple.
아니 산지 좀 뒤갈았다. 대말했다. 그 제단의 코로나 야죠. 코로나 팬도 제조 개개들 차타와데 때 무슨 야포래서 뒤전에 안도 소소라 개개 까지 제조데 산지를 작가는 채와세. 맞아. 다 쿵텔마 그것도 왔어.
And then at that time, Buddha corrected them and said, no, what Shariputra did is right. It doesn't have to be a Buddha. The most the kind spiritual master, is your teacher. So therefore, your teacher comes even before the Buddha. So you make prostration to your teacher. That's the way to correct it. So like nowadays we also talk about very importance of the Buddha. Like even Buddha is even more kinder, very kind, and even kinder than the Buddha, like that. So this all goes back to like that. So the source of this teaching, like how Guru is even more kinder than Buddha. It goes back to like that.
어때 딜로지지. 다 세다 대바서 때까지 심하게 강달라고 그래서 이제 배웠겠잖아.
So so like we usually call Tseten Demba, Shariputra. I mean, here it doesn't, in English translation, I don't think it says that, but in Tibetan it means like a lively person. It's like who's not dead, a live person.
What English said that? 그래야 이제 가네. 알래. 간지 뒤텐다테 아니 뒤텐다 간지 메세 텐다 댐바스 메세 텐다 댐바 냠슬랑게 샤리포사도 고고 그래서 디볼라다 인지가 여서 말아.
Shariputra dinanda kare benevolado da jidundala 올라겨.
알래 다테 아니 어때 대시도 고고도 세상 댐바사데 고야 그냥 너베게 셔나야 대라 고고에서래. 대타도 주스데 고는 되기도 배나 소소레 아니 또반 통화라야 아니 주춘스 맞좀봐 아니 소소 또반냠발라 아니 가로 세상 댐바 말이 직다 된다와 계절에 이제
Yeah, so here it says venerable, right? So venerable, like you can say, this also can be correct, to say venerable Shariputra. So someone you venerate, right?
단도 된다 된 디가나 아니 파드나야 저버전 투르 테 고데원도 be 메세 된다 담바 아니 가로 다 시행액이 강사세로 고고랑도 테 고데원도 was.
And so then another in the like other explanation it says like venerable is in here it says venerable, but it could mean anything, right? You can explain in different ways. So one explanation is someone who leads their life meaningfully. It's called venerable, like that.
뭐지 다 되지 다 될라 다 가르쳐봤나 다 리지퍼스나 아니 간지 태와 전부 리글라야 슈반 동역이 아니 보다 부모 아니 태와 전부 남라야 슈반 되면 서연 바이나 들고 샤라지 파다 신발라야 아니 냠슬랭 거나 람 렌다다 간레레스 오다 저와 도도 투스러와.
And then it says, and then so this is what he asks, right? How should a child of the lineage train who wish to engage in the practice of the profound profession of wisdom? The child of the lineage. So the lineage, here is like the Mahayana lineage. So who enter into the potential, to enter into the Mahayana path.
다 내가 삼모 쇼반도 받아 배회 그러다 그지 내 등된 담으로 먹어줘 다 간들 아니 삼모 동만이 이제 되려야 냠설 램반 능에 강사 야만나 솔음 존음 토름 고노라야 냠설 램 능에 강사 되게 냠네 간이 제고 그래서 오다 저한테 아니 다 상제가 진실람네 샤리부가 삼한테 봐봐 이 말이야.
And so anyway, the question is, so those beings, who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound profession of wisdom, should learn and practice like that, right? And so anyway, so this is again like blessed by Buddha, blessed by Buddha to ask this kind of question. It's not like it's his one question or his one intention.
아 대슈베칼라 아니 다니 제 되게지 라바샤 제 매바다 파티와트나 다티 랜데 상조 선바치 뭐 파바샤리도 뭐치 타다다 마 샤리발은 데케자 메소스 단두시라 바레스.
And then next is the answer, right? It's the answer from Avalokiteshvara. So thus he spoke, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, replied to Venerable Shariputra.
아니 어디 샤리포트 리지포모 강라라 샤르바도 좀 쇼반 도브란데 다 넘버 따브라 샤테스 아니 가리 저러나 따야데 봉봉하고 대다 짱라지 동만 봐 지서 따고 스타텐 도텐데레스 아니 디디션 되죠레스.
And then he says, Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound profession of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. So this is the brief teachings on the profession. So that would include the whole teachings, like so in a brief way.
오케이 다대 어다대 대단 다대 디글 봉봉하고 대다지 않지 동반도 맞지 따고 서다 렌 도디바지 아니 데니시라 주 동바고 동반이 아니 렌 제보되지 않은 거다 맞다 렌 제보되레스.
And so then this is like looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. So then that's the short answer and the short explanation of the profession of wisdom. And then after that, goes like form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness not, and form also not emptiness, and so forth. So that goes into the long or extensive explanation of the profession of wisdom sutra.
오케이. 단디가 부모하고 대다 짱다 란지 또 만나봤다고 해서 대 남주다 군두근데 빼는 거 침보래서네. 아니 다 손주나 손고도 왔어. 배샤 뭐뭐나 예사 말해. 반은 야지그 근데 재미있게 듣는 파 요말생도.
So this is emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. So the also expresses very great importance on this part also. He said that some of the translation, like the Chinese translation of the Heart Sutra, doesn't have that word also.
다 봉봉하고 대다 경 제자 안에 단델 대신 몸도 단델 대신 홀마 파시 연구를 강들 단델 파야 몸들이 잘해도 다강가 자다나고 싫어가지고 고비에는 싫어하고 고문도 간지 아니 강사 라지 티베 동화에 밤 라지 마다 따고 마제 봉봉하고 대다 경 아니 라지 마다 따고 그래서 내가 딱 고디드지나 되는 거 그래서.
And so, like, looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five ergas also. So it's five ergas also. So what was the other one first, right? This one and then this one also. So the aggregate, we're talking about the aggregate, is the is imputed on a person, right? So you have to see the person as being empty of inherent existence. But also the aggregate, to which the person is imputed, should be also seen as being empty of inherent existence. Yeah, so that way it's a little bit easier to understand.
Okay, okay, 다 되는데 오래 되는데 다 내니 올마다 저와 렌제지 다 저와요 말아 다 슈트 산도다 아니 네 인체들 다 진절해 볼까 알아래 아니 진절해 볼까 좋아 말 지선 나볼까 다네 간을 지선 나볼까 진절해 볼까 니가 누구요다 같이 리지 강 임바디 진절해 볼까래 지선 나볼까 아니 되는 말 저와 틀려도 아니 강가 지선 나볼까 그래서.
And so then after that is the explanation, the extensive explanation, right, where it goes to the form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness, etc. etc. So all that is a source, and so that there's no question anymore after that.
Okay. 대자 내가 쉬고라 아니 사실 좀 되게 레소 리지바 대드지노 리지바다 쉐리다 지나니게 네가 산지 좀 까면나 거 맞다 곰자니 쉬고되다 아니 코란이라 디바 저버들레지네 쉬고 타자면 어다 지나니데 야보촌도 지나니데 야보촌도 따다래 다라레세네 오단 리소와이 바 대다 셴소 까차요 그래서.
And then, so this is also the answer. It's an answer to that question, right? That Shariputra asked, which was also blessed, by the Buddha. And then Avalokiteshvara was also blessed by Buddha. So these are all blessed teachings, right? So the introductory part is the permitted teaching, and then this part, the Shariputra's question, blessed teaching. And then, and then after that, then at the end, from that concentration, I said to speak of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. So that he spoke at that time by himself, right? So that one is what do you call it, spoken teaching, and yeah. So that's Buddha he himself spoke at that time. So that's a spoken teaching, and before that, and then before that, the introductory part is the permitted teaching.
Okay, 다 아니 내가 앞에 삽제 먹을 다 삽제도 건 조금에 삽제는 삼삼때 시제도 된 고비들이 샷. 아주 다막 방어된 로상이지.
So there are like kind of the outlines, or many divisions, talking about this part, this has this part, this many parts. That can be even more confusing sometimes to the Westerners who are not used to that kind of system. So like it talks about the common, like I said, common introductory, and then there's the common introductory subdivisions, and then the uncommon introductory has this and this, that kind of divisions and so forth. So confused.
강들 아니 이건 고투네 대내 사진 뒤에서 어떻게 받은 응연로 되지 다 되는 바 아니 니제레스.
So from starting from the starting and up to through the power of the Buddha, up to that, is the preparatory, the introductory part, and then after that, is the actual part. And then after that, after the actual part, then comes the dedication part or the rejoicing part, right? Yes, it's well said, well said. So like that's the rejoicing part.
다 어디 저와디 고대오지 니 각기랑 아치니 시작인데 된다 그걸 배전 들으면 뭐 그러나 아니 돈이 또비 셔럽 냠슬랑 발라 때니 초람 요람 토람 고놈 물론라야 저다데 간데리 다 저와디 대 도도 저 밥이 봐야 돼 봐고 그래서
And so what it is,
냠슬랑 발라 때니 초람라 슈다 간데리
so through the realization of emptiness, how do we enter into the path of accumulation, and the path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of normal learning, like that. So through that realization of emptiness. So that's what it's asking. Yeah, so it is not clear, I mean, not obvious like that in the text, right? It doesn't say that, but that's what it means. And so there is a two-way, two kind of disciples, right? Two level of disciples, who realizes emptiness or enters into the path and so forth. So this one is mainly taught to the disciples of the dull faculties. And so to the sharp faculties, the disciples, it only said so only just said that, and with that the sharp faculties understands everything. Okay. 아니 동보 돈이라면 신에도 공부 그래. 대가나 아니 부모가와 대다자라지 부모배나 부모가와 된 세지수네. 아니 대라면 아니 신에 공네. 아니 존엄도 대라면 아니 존엄도 놓고 그래서 다 놓다 두신다고 그랬어. And so for that you have to first achieve the calm abiding, calm abiding, observing or focusing on emptiness, and then through that. How you enter into the path of accumulation, path of preparation, and so forth. Okay. 제가 네 배나 단단가도 배나 지지에게 랍라나 루선도 개개 옛날 때 전에 마제 호모적이도 대내가도 산지 좀 되게 시간 산지 좀 되게 말아봤지 샤리보다 샤리의 코란이 저한테 지금도 또 문에 더마 레고 살다 돼. So nowadays in the schools, like teacher don't teach so much, but they give a lot of homeworks, for the students to do themselves. And so this is similar to like that, right? So Buddha, he didn't speak himself, but he just, made an Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra do the question answers. So now you have to study well with the meditation here now, okay? 다 동반이 짱짱한 시야래. 단도 아니 간지 제공 잡 잡지사지 시야요. 그래서 되는마 들고 고 시야요. 단도 타니 카카를 참 거지. 만지 우즈도 처와단 대시 가는 마도 동반이 곰고 그래서. So now this is all talking about meditating on emptiness, right? So like talking about how the form is empty. Emptiness is form, and then so talking about all the different kinds of objects, like, we don't have they're like jatan plaza. Jekon jatan subject. Tony go be used. The Tony go be used in Ramla change the way. Jatan subject. So that in some texts and there is like in the more extensive text like on the Professional Wisdom Sutra, it talks about 128 different objects, meditating on the emptiness of these 128 different objects. We don't have to go through all of them, but we still have to go just like it mentioned here, like talking about the 5 ergers, the 5 senses, the 5 ergers, and the 4 truths, and so forth. So all this emptiness that we talk about here, and we're going to meditate on emptiness on all of those.
Rekon jata jata nga zo pena karo. Pashi chidina, doji chobatang, ta jeton bata tutuna yoye warwa. Pashi sego, do sego chodo nyonge wa, titi tutuna la pashi yoye.
So of course, those 128 objects, to meditate on emptiness are mentioned in the professional and extensive, meditating, even the short professional wisdom sutra. But also, I think it mentions in the Golden Light Sutra, which you guys recite, right?
다 듣는 좀 거지 간지. 그래서 가진 레콘에다 찌라 동반이 겁나 셴바도 파 링제진데. 대단 나오 진도다 두시를 건데 강세 들어와.
So like, of course, in that objects you meditate on the emptiness of one object, then you refer that to the other object and that other object, all this. So follow in the same way on other objects.
왜 되는 가도 다 돈이 돼도 공부해다 안 되네.
So now you're going to be meditating on emptiness a little bit, okay? Are you ready?
오케이. 다네 돈이 공부해도 조금은 조금이 연구를 해서.
Then on meditation on emptiness, there is analytical meditation on emptiness and stabilized meditation on emptiness.
더 조금 세대 간지 안에 배나 가르고 땡땡을 받고네 간지 전세권이야. 아니 간지 땡주마에 충가하면 대체 동화만 간지 땡땡도 삼아다네 공부를 해서 되라. 아니 조금으로 왔어.
So the analytical meditation is where you think about the reasons, right? The correct reasons, to prove how things are not independently existing, and how they depend, things them to exist. So where there isn't a phenomenon that is not dependent on origination, and that's not dependent on other things, and so and that which is not dependent on origination, that cannot be a phenomena that is not dependent on other phenomena like that. So these are the kind of the reasons, correct reason to think about, to do an analytical meditation on emptiness.
근데 전에 배나 샘나치 못다지 아니 저다 젠다 차실할 때마다 랑이네 좀 지야 모두 선배 지금 내시라고 녀와이나 아니 다 다랑 다 되고 그랬어. 제가 서로 나지 전부 선배 다가라 선배 다가라가나 전에 되고 있다.
So with that, with analytical meditation, by applying all the reasons, you come to understand, yes, everything and depends on cause and conditions and other parts and so forth. So there isn't anything that is not dependent on cause and conditions or parts and so forth. And so when you come to understand that, and then you keep your mind on that thought. So that's good. That's then stabilizing meditation.
배나 안에 야나 쭉 초와 배나 쭉 봉보다고 찍다라야 돈이라 고지니나 아니 초와단 대시단 대시 넘버 10 간가라 팍팍 초초해서 뭐 찍가라 삼다고도.
And so when you meditate on the emptiness of the five aggregates, you start with the form aggregate, right? So you meditate on the emptiness of the form aggregate, and then once you realize that, then you can refer to the feeling aggregates, the aggregates of feeling, aggregate of composition factor, and so all this can be referred very easily.
오케이. 다전에 다담보 소소가 변나 소소고 폼보대 간대지 접도 폼보대 가와라 따가는 거라 따가도 까발라 따가도 라발라 따가도 간대지 접샤스 도치다와 나 진짜다 차셰다 저들아 몸보지 그 내가 뭐또 폼보대 수사만지 요 말해서
구멍어서 들어요.
나 폼보 수기 폼보 변나 수기 폼보 죽동보 매매 디칸데다 폼보가 와다다 폼보 변나 수기 폼보 따와라인다 나고 집어래 간지 죽 폼보 따와잖아 죽동보고 사 간지 소소고 죽분데 간지 접도 상다래.
And so when you talk about the emptiness of the five aggregates, the emptiness of the five aggregates, so you start with the aggregate of form. So the aggregate of form, then you start thinking about how the form is, how the form comes into existence, right?
Okay. 도전에 가지 도전에 때 삼로 땅에 다 그저 가지 땡대가 남자 때 로를 잡아야나 소소 나나지 뭐도 삼비 소와 대가나 차는 되고다.
And so, so how it appears to us and how it actually exists, right? And you can think about that. Then when you come, so yeah, there is. Then when you come to understand about the interdependence of the form aggregate, depending on other things to exist, right? And it doesn't exist in a way it appears to us, like that. When you come to understand that, then you keep your mind on that thought. So like that, maybe you can start with the analytical meditation and then bring up to the stabilized meditation, right? Bring it to the stabilized meditation. So for 5 minutes now, we're going to do that. Either you can just do analytical meditation, or you can just do the stabilized meditation, or you can do both, whatever you want to do. So we're going to meditate. So by studying the Heart Sutra, you might not learn it, and everything's there. You have already learned, right? But but if you do some meditation and practice, definitely will create some more merit and leave a strong imprint in your mind.
Okay. Tanda when Shariputra number one thing, Nama Pena Sanjay Shembaji Kablaya and in Kapsi Pure, Kapsi Sanjila. Shuma Boban Kap get Naji and Ripa Nobo Yosho, Koran Munum Tejan Pure, Tigan Devil Atene, and Tanda Shariputra number Shores, or the Shetayor.
And so there is a story about Shariputra being very sharp, so like in a previous lifetime, to one of the Buddha, he offered a needle, he offered a needle, and then he prayed, may I have a very sharp wisdom, just like the sharpness of the needle, because he offered with that, intention. That's why he had a very sharp wisdom in that lifetime.
Okay. Okay. Now we do meditation. Okay. Okay. I just go more than I need to was that. 당가도 데리테 지금 향가도 주dom다 되 책인다. 지금도 주dom다 오시. 도dom다 오시. And that tambo kalamata and Lingia said they call Logi there was. And take out that Sanji Chum de Yamdo Kanji, me want the Shiva Gelong Gendenda. And then Mombaimbe, any Shanchu Sempa the Yadacha Mambo, Shagu Pumburla, any Sanji Chum de anything that Yambashu couldn't do the La Yokishares.
So then in conclusion, so there's the introductory part, right? Talking about where Buddha was residing, and with whom, and there's like the great assembly of the monks and great assembly of bodhisattvas. The monks are the ordinary people, or the monks, or the ordained people, or those who have the intention to the virtue or liberation in this case. And the bodhisattvas, like and all this karsata, chanju samba karsa, chanju samba, karsa, chanju samba gede chubo da, ane?
Ale, and the Takanji, me want the Cheve, and then to get on get the Chimbochi, Tam Mayimbe, and to make Mantua Yanchi, Dachum Badan, and then you say jealous about the Mambo, Shuyo Resro.
So the ordinary beings, like the monks, the fully ordained monks or the sanghas, and then there are like those who are not ordinary human beings, like the bodhisattvas, the arhats, and the solitary arhats, or the heroes and solitary rajas, and the bodhisattvas.
And the Sanji Chumden data and Tomajana Yambasho should they resro.
And then Buddha is absorbed in that concentration.
And the Karchinazana and the Sherry Sharipani, that Chu colon, the Donichiva teacher than Sugar the Kokores.
So why he was absorbed in the concentration in order for Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra to have this discussion.
And the Teni Tikalaya, and the Sherry is a young, and it Tombani Kola Samatanti Yoresro.
And at that time, Avalokiteshvara is also thinking about the emptiness.
And the Tene and the Sanjegi, and the Sharipu Chingelamnia, and the Sheridelaya, Ta and the Sherab Ji part of the Shamba, Tomani Tela, and the Nyamsalani, Solom, the Jolom, Tolom, Golan, Rogana, Karinyam Langures, that to the embrace.
And then he blessed the Shariputra to ask this question to Avalokiteshvara. And so by practicing practicing the emptiness, if the practitioner wants to reside, enter into the Pada preparation, then how should they practice? And so that's the question he asked.
And the Tigela, oh, that Tilige and the Chanagata, and the Tawachimu Rilaya, and in Dova Yuding, Chanagatin in Dova Yamsalam Sambayana. And Dodge Pumboda, tell a Dodge bigger, and the Kansa Ninga Ranji Tibet Tonga Gomgo race, or that they don't know.
And then in short, Avalokiteshvara said, if you want to enter into the path, to do the practice to enter into the path, then this is how you should, this is how you should do. You should see all the that you should see the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates. And the person, which is imputed on the aggregate as a person being empty of inherent existence as well.
Okay, that thing is tendos over that.
We're going up to that now, right?
And it that tea all matter, and it that Tombani Jedese, like the Tombani, Matamatan, going to your rest.
And then after that, there comes the emptiness, like because the four sets of emptiness, like this, form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. So these four sets of emptiness, so that they're all a fourfold of emptiness, So
that chance of some
more complicated now.
Ticola chance of some dash.
So now you can as a homework, you can think about.
Get down, Java Mombo low, and Java Mom and Java Najin, took part hard roads, then go pin road. Get any code the order, Chile, and it any level is.
So I did read the commentaries, and there are many different commentaries, so it's more complicated, to go according to the commentary. So therefore I just made, like become a little bit, like concise, for you to understand easier.
제가 가는 게 대전에 가다 상조 선바 첨보 혈에서 가가 가사 섬 놓고 당에데 가사 섬 여기 말대 초도대 가사 섬 놓고 따다 대금도 제가 특강 용용으로 오신가지 제 탑시절이요.
So then, like when we talk about the Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and so when I talked to you according to the commentary, then it found like, you felt like, you're talking about three different kind of beings. So, but it's not like that. So I will just, therefore I will make it as concise as possible.
아니 자서 도바사잖아. 다때 리만는 것도 카투라는 것도 강가 세워 작으러.
So if you have a doubt, or if you find that that what I'm explaining is maybe not correct, then you can say it out, speak it out, and then we can make it begin, make it clear.
Okay, any questions? Any broken questions? 셔럽님 뭐 코로나치다 말하고 되는 도와대. 셔럽님 뭐 코로나 된다. 제도 맨날 셔럽님 뭐 대당하도 남이 뇌대와 지원 작으면도. 그 말하면 아무도.
게다만한데.
남중하도 뇌대와 특대 작으면도 간이나 가시대.
게다만한 게 싫으니 뭐지? 게다만한 싫으니 뭐래?
너도 내 가상 그만 제도 셔럽님 몰래 대다대 뭐 대나 특하지 말아도.
So there is a Heart Sutra inside the 8,000 verses of the Professional Wisdom Sutra, but that is very different from what we're usually reading.
세상에 제도 뭐냐 다 로카시는 출제는 다파 알리 셰시 제도만 하면 셰시 나서서 돼. 간지 간주는 말래 파 마샤샤 다들 해사시대.
But it's not from the Professional Wisdom Sutra, but from the Kangyur, the Buddha's translated teachings. And Khensur Shirji Garza.
셰시 나서서요.
So this is called the various professional wisdom. Various professional wisdom. In that text also there is a Heart Sutra there in that text. For the various professional wisdom.
Okay, yeah, Bob, your question?
Yes, I was wondering about, in the Buddha's time, were there nuns that were also in attendance at some of the teachings, or did the nuns typically not receive teachings? Sort of curious about that.
그래서
보세요.
고맙습니다.
나 내가 상계라 최신이 나왔는데 아니도 여러 배서. 아니도 여러 요 말했어.
안에 열이 단다 gelong 당보대 안에 gelong 마빠마로 와. 선지 좀 된데 코나게 깨매대. 아니 대라
이면 아마 용도 말.
아마라 가로 코나 깨매로 아마로. 당보 아마데 당보 아마레 되네 코나 깨매들이야.
Yeah. So there were nuns, like Buddha's mother, not like a mother who gave birth to him, but the mother who raised him. She was the first one to become a nun, a Buddhist nun, and she was in the audience, of receiving teachings. And then after that, his wife also became nun, and then many other women became nun also.
제단이나 리지 보모세 돼. 아니 태화 첨벌의 중요가 보금 보모세 고기는 삼삼 부치보면서 매야 돼. 부치보에나야 아니 보다 보모대 야자 주거래.
And so here also, Avalokiteshvara answers. He says, the son and the daughter of the lineage, son or the daughter of the lineage. So he's talking about that. That's so, and any man or woman, who are interested in learning about professional wisdom.
Okay. Yes. Jennifer.
Geshe. I was thinking back to the description of Avalokiteshvara. So he's described as superior, Bodhisattva, and Mahasattva. And in the explanation tonight, you said that the bodhisattva would be like an ordinary bodhisattva, say on the paths of accumulation and preparation, and that mahasattva would refer to a bodhisattva on the path of seeing or the path of meditation, where they'd realized emptiness. But I was wondering, by the fact that he's called a superior, that would mean that he had realized emptiness just by the fact that he's called superior. So it would be redundant to say that superior and mahasattva both meant that could realize emptiness. So I'm wondering, could the mahasattva be that he was on one of the pure grounds, say the 8th, 9th, or 10th bhumi? Because you could still be a superior on the lower grounds.
그래서
그래서
다행히 먼저 내 대시자야죠. 퍼버치스, 퍼버치스 셈버스 퍼버치스다. 전주 셈버스 퍼버치스는 정말되는 퍼버치스 그걸 알아. 나는 전주 셈버스도는 저는 년도 처럼 가서 전주 셈버스 처럼다 전주 셈버스 처럼 받은 저람 받지. 안에 셈버스 몰라되는 토람 받은 거람 받지. 그거라. 근데 이제 되는다 내가 되는 퍼버치스로 퍼버로든 내가 퍼버로든 그 토람도 걸로 임버라스. 나는 셈버스 몰라고 하면 돼. 다 들라나야 도전차도 둬서. 이제 제자들은 제자다 내 파게 따다 셈버스 몰라도는 파게 빼나 가서 이게 다 봐서서는 안 내베는 점심부터는 랍나 되게나 간대났어.
텔람나 마디오 요 말이 제반 파바라데 아니 소체레 칸드벤 파바세베 돈이가 또 바대자. 아니 쳔보세베 다바사스면 되게 되자 고초를 했어.
Yeah, it could be understood like that, you know. So like when you say superior, you know, it's arhat, means arya, so which means, you know, which includes, you know, all these three paths, right? The path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of normal learning. And so it says in the Mahasattva, you know, you can say the Bodhisattva on the three pure grounds like that.
제가 누구 고초도 배나 셰리드 타버테 배나 샤주 삼바 쳔보데레스. 나 셰리드나 타거로 샤주 셈바나 망보요레스 배나. 말이 샤주 셈바나 망보요레스. 아니 배나 군족구 샤주 셈 제등이시. 야 안에 법에 강사 차등이시. 아니 쳔보 차등 되네 요레사. 야야 고잡 잡던다 잡초서로 봐.
그래서 님들
배나 셰리드 따이 배나 쳔보데레스 배나 다바사도네 되게레스. 이나 땡헬아야 안에 법바세지 용거레스. 아니 샤주 셈바세지 용거레스. 법바사데 소제레 건 법바. 셰리 샤주 셈바사데 야 샤주 셈 제여와지. 아니 돈이에서 마통에 되네 요레스. 야 고초도 와. 아테나기 샤주 셈바데 쳔보 단 토쇼데 배나 셰리드 체쇼 토쇼데레스 하로지.
다 봤었네.
다 봤었네 로지.
Yeah, so you can understand in that way, you know, like Avalokiteshvara, you know, it's like, you know, is a Mahasattva, therefore, you know, he is in the Bodhisattva on the path, you know, on the three pure grounds, one of the three pure grounds. And then the Bodhisattva, you know, is the Bodhisattva who have only the conventional bodhicitta, you know, who have only conventional bodhicitta. And then the superior, you know, is someone who has the ultimate bodhicitta, the, you know, wisdom delight and emptiness directly conjoined with the bodhicitta, and like that. So you can understand it that way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Margaret.
Geshe-la, Damshila, can you explain again what was the significance of the also in that paragraph when Avalokiteshvara answered, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. You mentioned just now that this is not found in the Chinese text, and it's special, but what is the significance of that? Can you explain it again?
제가 니 나라 포봉하고 장 라지 도마타고 포봉하고 따는 셴바 가르다 그러나 포봉하고라 땡땡이 강사대양 따고 그래서 디베자로 배샤다데.
So here, you know, it talks only about the five aggregates, right? So five aggregate. So that's what is the five aggregate actually, right? It's the basis of designation for person. The person and the 5 aggregates. So the person is the name and is designated, to the 5 aggregates. To 5 aggregate, you designate it as a person. And so here only talks about the 5 aggregates. The person who is designated to the 5 aggregate also is empty of inherent existence. And that.
근데 샤라지 파드시마도 곰고르스. 가래 고는나 풍부된 게 샤라지 파드시마 곰고르 대 말에 강사 같은 게 샤라지 파드시마 곰고르 마체 풍부된 데 대한 곰고르스.
And so you have to meditate on the profession of wisdom, of the emptiness, emptiness of inner essence of the person, right? And not only you have to meditate on the emptiness of inner essence of the person only, but you also have to meditate on the emptiness of inherent essence of the 5 aggregates.
티 잡로 배샤다 티 고대외 배시다 때레 만 고뇨 잘 못벌다 티 고대쇼라고 그러셔.
And so that's like kind of the hidden, right? So talking about the person being empty of inherent existence, you have to see the person as being empty of inherent existence is kind of hidden, right? It's not mentioned here, not explicit. But it's that's when you say also, that's what it's referring to. So this is the easiest explanation. There are more other explanations which are more complicated.
근데 브릭 컵 오솔는데 내 키쇼는 셴바이 키워다고 잘로 랍사고 그셔로.
And so when you say bring this cup also, it means like you already have some kind of cup, and then you say this cup also means like you already have something there, and then bring this one also. Like that's also something already there.
제가 네가 샤라지 파드시마 아니 쇼 그거는 가리 쇼 그거는 아니 부모가 라인 쇼 그거는 딩할라 그 쇼 미세 시험도 대다다 나주 부모때 다주 가래 나주 부모라네 다주 강사대 고대다 때 고대쇼로 그래.
So he says, looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the 5 aggregates also. So beyond 5 aggregates also, then what was that other one first, And then you say, 5 aggregates also. So before that, what was it? So then in the explanation, it says it is the person.
Therefore, this week, I think this week, right? He's only teaching Dharamsala. You can watch that here. 근데 땐 디텐다 송거래. 남주대 미색 송거래스.
So there's teaching by His Holiness, on the Heart Sutra, and he mentions this very clearly.
This week, right? He's teaching this week.
This week,
Starting
on the 4th.
Yeah.
Here it will be the 4th. I think in India it's at the 5th.
Oh, in January 4th?
Yeah, it's January 5 in India, but here it will be the evening before.
Oh, okay.
On January 4th.
Yeah, Heart Sutra from record from Korea groups.
Oh, that's good.
That's good for us. But he didn't mention what we go to word by word day. I'm sure he got this one. Then namju kadidan road kundi. And then got singri.
Yeah, so His Holiness always mentions this. I don't know if you guys, so some of may have seen my Facebook. I shared this teaching by His Holiness Dalai Lama on Heart Sutra that was given in, I think, in California, requested by FPMD. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was there. And I think Rinpoche Rinpoche was there, Tseten Rinpoche was there, there all these lamas, receiving teaching from His Holiness. And of course, the Tibetan Jimba was translating. So it's really good. And I was listening to that, and I haven't come to this part yet, but I was listening to that. That was really good. Very, very clear explanation and a great translation, from Tibetan Jimbala.
Okay.
That was 2001.
Wow,
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Oh.
His Holiness looked very young at that time. Yeah, Jen, cheers.
Okay, gentlemen.
I see that Mark has his hand up. Mark can go next.
Where's Mark?
Oh, okay. Mark Lapatandesh.
Where's Mark?
Oh, it looked like he had his hand up.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Hey.
Okay, Geshe, I have a question about meaning of a word. Okay, so in this sutra it says, therefore Shariputra, since bodhisattvas have no attainments, they rely on the perfection of wisdom and abide in it. I thought attainments meant, you know, the 6 perfections, the accumulation of merit. So what does that mean, attainments, and you don't have attainments, but you abide in wisdom? That's not clear to me.
We haven't gotten to that part yet.
Well, it's a burning question, so I figured I'd ask.
Hey. Good dog, got it.
그래서 그 토바야메 마토바야메 쓰여지라.
Two, we are not there yet.
아니야, 나 시럽을 내대어는 토바야 마스테데 고지 믿으사. 토바메 나 시럽 내는데 초가래서 토바메나.
Raji to Tobayo Madla, yes.
Yeah, it also says there's no non-attainment also.
Oh.
Read that part. There's no attainment and there's no non-attainment as well.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's all talking about, you know, inherently. There's no inherent attainment. There's no inherent non-attainment. So that's what it's talking about.
Oh, okay. So it's the inherent part that they're really alluding to.
That's
Yeah,
right.
inherent part is
There's
most
no
important. This is the most
There's
important.
no inherent attainment and there's no inherent non-attainment.
Okay.
Yeah, bring over the inherent, okay? This is the most important one, okay? Okay, yeah,
Thank
Jennifer.
Thank you. Related to Margaret's question, is I've seen a translation where it instead of using the word also, the 5 aggregates are also empty, it said even the 5 aggregates are empty. And does that mean that, is it the difference between the self of persons and self of phenomenon?
Even that 그게 대해봐 맞지? 근데 부모가 원하지 또 말대 고바자죠. 집어 고준도 같아. 그지 배제다 말하지.
So sorry, Jennifer, what you were saying that even
I saw another translation where instead of using the word also, you know, that it uses the word even, you know, so even the 5 aggregates are empty. And I guess I was wondering if they're making the distinction between the selfnesses of persons and selflessness of phenomenon. Is that what that means to be?
짱세져라.
어.
양세다 짱세져라. 짱양 항송 연두듯이. 짱세다 항세다. 대양 쿠쇼스. 디샤스 대양 쿠쇼라 대항세다 짱세져라. 짱세도는 먼저 뒷점마스 대양세져라. 뒷점마스 대양 그래서 짱세져라. 딜러 고민도스 이벤트에 대고거다.
그래서
나도 다 인데 게실라 된들라나 게실라 양 된들라 되다 짱세 되다지 디마버지 코나 몰아서나 딜라 고주들라다 다 가사게 다음에도 인데 초기 다음에 초기한 다음에 버렸어. 가서 다음에 인제 초기한 다음에 버렸어. 근데 가서 다음에다 초기 다음에 이제 된거 쓰겠어 말했어. 짱세 되게.
판 대시 포 세우지 된 대시 뭐 자요 그래서 봐.
저 된데 대시잖아 이거 그랬어.
대지는 대시 지리를 변나 추장 변나. 부모하고 대다 짱세네. 단지 부모하고 대다 짱세도 와. 아라지 동반 넘버 따고서나 딩을 지시해서 계셔 봤어. 저 딩을 가르쳐야 돼.
So this one here, I think is talking about aggregate, you know, being empty of inherent existence, right? And so, you know, when you talk about that, you know, so 다들라 먼저 가서 먼저 딜라도 가라 저기 다음에 가서 다음에 쓰지 믹스에 디켜봐 야마라.
다 같이
가서 제가 맞다 랑시도 뭐 동버스더네.
야 라제 TV 또 맞아 도 그런가 라제 TV 또 말아.
네, 다들 되게 먼저 다 가서 먼저
대화 제목을로 대화 제목을로 또 담고 있잖아. 그 라제 토마토 간 차단 거 같이 봐라.
네. So yeah, I mean, you can explain in that way, in a sense, like maybe for the lower schools, you know, like, you know, who believe in, for whom, you know, the selflessness, you know, is the main object of attainment. You know, so, you know, there you're talking about the person being not existing from his own side, is a selfless person, and the phenomenon not existing from his own side is a phenomenon. So here, there's no difference in that, So everybody is equally being empty of inherently, whether it's a phenomena or person, doesn't matter. So it's the emptiness. It's not the object that's being empty, but it's the emptiness itself. And so, yeah, I mean, in the other context, you can explain it that way. But in this context, when we're talking about just emptiness, of inherent existence, then so we're mainly talking about the object. So this is here is saying that aggregates are empty also. Then there was what was the other one before that? It was empty, and then that was something empty, and that aggregate is also empty. Means like there was something else. So what was that? And then in His Holiness Dalai Lama's explanation was the person.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
사실 군대마다 지나다 저와 뭐든 저와 담으라 뭐도 돼. 저와 잡단 담으라 뭐 볼수다.
군대에.
군대마다 시다는 저와 담으라 뭐도.
So yeah, generally there are many other explanations. There are many different explanations, not just His Holiness, explanation, but also many other explanations.
Okay. 제가 네 콜라 군대는 다시 뭐 잡을 장소 때 다는 유튜브로 따다. 군대는 네 콜라 뺨 다시 뭐 잡을.
So you can find His Holiness.
네 다는 다시 자다 곧
YouTube. You can go there and then look for that also.
네 다는 네 진다시 자다 다시 고대원으로 상면 고대원으로 잡을. 다 군대 텔파양 게 대한 차들 잡을스.
So what I'm trying to explain is, easier for people to understand, but what His Holiness explained could be a little bit more tough to understand.
Okay. 양대 배자 가져는 두다 근데 추탐체 라지 동바이바 마제 부모가고 자 라지 또 동거래서 어디 내자셔서 내가 드려나 야근 내가 드네 오케이
걸사 야가를 걸사
야거든 야 내가 드려나 누가 삼체 투세비 셔러셔지 버드 셴바 닐라 넘버 따지스 셔리 버드 셴바 따바레 대마제 아니 딱가로 봉봉하고 장 아니 라지 되게 동안에 미워래 산으로 납셔
이거라 그래
다 간데 추셴바 된다 돈이 또 그래서 대마제 아니 봉봉하고 땅 라지 되게 동안 또 그래서
So other explanation they also says like other phenomena, not other phenomena and and aggregates as well. Like that.
제가 니콜란 다시 빼면 뭐 다시 라마로 뭐다 고대쇼라데 가지 도 잡으시네. 아니 제바타 소소 티칸라 가세야 자자자야가.
That's been explanation like that. So you can also add your own explanation.
Okay. That's good. You can read in here. First, we can put a little bit dom down this so then
So if you can just make it short for yourself to understand, make it concise for yourself to understand, that would be easier.
Okay. Now we stop. Otherwise, Mark gets for sleeping. Are you sleeping there? Mark is very smart. He doesn't show the video that we don't see he's sleeping.
You can't tell if my eyes are open or closed.
Okay, I'm kidding. So
So from next one, then next week we'll go through the fourfold emptiness, like form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness no other form is also no other emptiness, like that. Those forms.
다 관계 짱도 양가가 되는 당간도 다 친도 싫어요 말다 되네로 신다 쉬다.
Let's not stay too long on the also.
이나데 배회 틀는데 곧 고야 빼면 보여서.
Yeah, but there is understanding, to make on that also part.
제가 군두고 송도 때는 자기 자기도 전화를 요 말에서 대인집에 차서 대파 되나 루고 자기다 웬남도 전화 요사 말대.
So like I think in the translation, the Chinese translation and Vietnamese translation don't have that part of the word. I think you might have to insert that.
Okay.
Sashi perki juksing me tuk tram re rabling jin ye digin padi sange jing du mikte ulwagi rokun nam dak jing la chur pa shu jetsun lame kutse rabten jing nam katrin le chok chur ge padang lo sang ten pedren me sasungi droe mun sel tak tu negyur chid idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. From my two collections vast as space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this graded course to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. Savior of the Snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjhima's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious Supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Me tse wei ter chen chen rezi dri me kien pei wang po jam del yang gang chen ge pei su yen song ka pa lo sang dra pei Jabla Solwade. Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Damjala.
Geshe-la, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Just a couple of quick announcements on Friday, starting at 10. Marianne's going to lead another recitation of the Golden Light Sutra to start off the new year. And also, we're going to start after this class, if people want to stay on for a little longer to have a little class discussion about the teachings, feel free. And then, Deborah, did you have an announcement that you wanted?
I think it was mentioned, but starting January 5th, His Holiness Dalai will be giving teachings on the Heart Sutra. And it will be on, you go to his website, Dalai Lama schedule, and it will have the link to that. Of course, that's India time, so you have to adjust for Boston time.
So it'll be the 4th here, just important to remember.
Right, at late at night, but it's recorded and you can listen to it later, days later, in the next days. You can start behind, one day behind.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
See you
Geshe-la.
next
Thank you,
year,
Dr.
Geshe-la.
Sleep with the emptiness.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, Geshe-la.
Bye-bye.
you, Geshe-la. Don't joke.
Make sure everyone sleep with the emptiness.